They laughed when my wife put together a slideshow of my failures at my 62nd birthday party. 20 people, a projector screen, and jokes about how I couldn't even reheat leftovers. I stood there quietly, no defense, no argument, just a smile before I walked out. For years later, she saw my face in a magazine. Her hand trembled. No, that can't be. But it was. And by that time, I'd already taken everything she believed she'd built on her own. My name is Vernon Aldrich. I'm 62, and last October, on my birthday, my wife Brenda threw a party I'll never forget. Not in the fond way, in the way that leaves a weight in your chest. She rented the back room at the Pines, our local country club. Said it was just a small dinner with friends. She told me that morning while I was fixing the garbage disposal she'd been nagging me about for weeks. I should have sensed something wrong when she smiled too wide and touched my shoulder too softly. Brenda hadn't been gentle in years. At 7:30 sharp, I walked into that room. 20 people jumped up and yelled, "Surprise!" My stomach dropped before my mind could react. Balloons were everywhere, the cheap kind, with my face clumsily photoshopped onto a sleeping turtle. A banner read, "Happy birthday to the world's okayest husband." Not great, not good, just okayest. Then the lights dimmed, and a projector flickered to life behind the head table. In big red letters, "Life lessons for my lazy husband, a survival guide." Brenda stepped up to the microphone like a talk show host. She wore that red dress she'd bought for last year's office Christmas party, the one she'd never worn for me. Her co-workers were there, her book club friends, the same people we'd grilled steaks with every summer. Everyone had a drink and a grin. The first slide appeared. Me, asleep on the couch, mouth open, TV remote still in hand. The caption read, "This is how he prepares for important meetings." Laughter rippled through the room. Brenda smiled sweetly into the mic. "Now don't get me wrong," she said. "Vernon has many talents. Sleeping just happens to be his most advanced one." More laughter. I stood by the door, hands in my pockets. No smile. No reaction. The next slide was worse. A blurry photo of me at the stove, staring at the microwave. Caption, "His idea of cooking, intimidating leftovers until they reheat themselves." Her friends howled. One woman, Sharon, was laughing so hard she wiped tears from her eyes. My stepdaughter Bethany, whom I'd helped move into her dorm just 2 months earlier, snorted when the next clip played. Me trying to assemble a bookshelf from some flat-pack store. I muttered, "Why don't these instructions have words?" Brenda looped the video 3 times with a fake laugh track. I stood there motionless, expressionless. Inside, something went dark, quiet and final. Brenda leaned into the mic. "Don't worry, folks," she said. "He's mostly house-trained." The room exploded in laughter. I should have walked out, but I didn't. I stayed through the slideshow, the cake, the pats on the back. "You're such a good sport, Vern. She really got you, huh?" Brenda kissed my cheek for the cameras. I tilted my head slightly, and her lips met air. She laughed. "Oh, don't be dramatic, honey." Then, low enough for only me to hear, "It's just a joke. Lighten up." That's when I realized. She wasn't cruel because she despised me. She was cruel because she believed I'd never go. I didn't yell, didn't slam doors, didn't make a scene. That's not how you survive a battlefield. You stay quiet. You watch. You plan. When we got home, Brenda was still high on the attention. Scrolling through her phone, giggling at the comments on the pictures she'd already posted. "Look at this one," she said, showing me the screen. Sharon wrote, "You were such a good sport. See, everyone loved it." I nodded, said nothing, kissed her forehead, and went to the bedroom. "You're not mad, are you?" she called after me. "No," I said, "just tired." That satisfied her. She went back to her phone, back to her validation, her world where humiliation was entertainment, and I was the running joke. But I wasn't tired. I was finished. While she slept, I sat in the dark living room. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of settling wood. I stared at the wall and thought about everything I'd built in this marriage. Not the house, not the cars, but the invisible structure, the systems that kept her life smooth while she thought I did nothing. I'd spent 3 years preparing for this. Not intentionally at first, but after enough small humiliations, enough cutting remarks, enough nights realizing I was just a convenience, I started creating exits. Quiet ones, legal ones, irreversible ones. The next morning, I woke before dawn. Made black coffee. Brenda wouldn't be up for 2 more hours. I packed a single duffel, 2 changes of clothes, a thermos, a notebook, and the flash drive I'd been updating for months. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter, right beside the laptop, the same one she'd used to make that slideshow. I didn't leave a note. Notes invite debate. Silence doesn't. At 6:15, I walked out the front door. The air was cold and sharp, the kind that slices through fog and reminds you you're still alive. I didn't look back. Not at the house, not at the street, not at the life I'd spent 20 years building. 3 miles down the road, I stopped at a gas station and found an old pay phone. Yes, they still exist. I dialed a number I'd memorized months before. A man picked up on the second ring. "It's time," I said. "Understood," he replied. "Everything's in motion." I hung up, bought a newspaper, and sat in a corner booth at a diner that smelled of burnt toast and syrup. I wasn't waiting for her to call, or for her to realize I was gone. I was waiting for the first automated alert to reach her inbox. The one that would inform her the house was no longer in my name, that our accounts had been separated, that every digital tie between us had been cut overnight. By the time she opened her eyes, I was already a ghost. 3 weeks after I vanished, Brenda posted a video on Instagram, her sitting at the kitchen island, sipping wine. The caption read, "When your husband's still sulking 3 weeks later. Guess I'm the birthday villain now." Followed by a crying laughing emoji. 74 likes. Comments from friends. "He'll come back. They always do. You didn't do anything wrong. He's just sensitive." I watched the clip from a library computer 2 states away. No emotion, no reaction, just took a screenshot and saved it in a folder labeled evidence of character. What Brenda didn't realize was that her world was already unraveling, slowly, precisely, like tugging a single thread until the whole sweater comes apart. That same day, my stepdaughter Bethany called from college. I knew because I'd set up alerts on specific accounts. The school's bursar had sent an email, "Tuition payment failed twice." Bethany assumed it was a glitch. "Mom," she said, "something's wrong with the school account. Can you check it?" Brenda tried logging in. Access denied. Password changed. Recovery email invalid. She called the bank that managed the education trust. They were polite but firm. "Ma'am, that account is controlled through a revocable trust established by Mr. Aldrich prior to your marriage. You were listed only as a convenience user, not a legal owner. He's revoked your access." I could picture her voice rising, sharp and incredulous. "That's impossible. I've been paying her tuition for years." A pause. Then the banker replied, "No, ma'am. He has." That would have stung, but it was only the beginning. 2 days later, a brown envelope arrived at the house, an IRS audit notice. Triggered by inconsistencies in her Etsy business taxes from 2 years earlier, the year I'd helped her simplify her returns. Miles she never drove. Office space she didn't have. All filed under my preparer ID. Now I was gone, and the IRS wanted documentation, receipts, logs, proof, all stored on encrypted drives behind passwords only I knew. She called the IRS, sat on hold for 47 minutes. When someone finally answered, they asked for records. Brenda said, "My husband has them." "And where is your husband, ma'am?" She had no answer. Then her Etsy account froze. Routine verification, they called it. All they needed was confirmation of ownership and a digital signature from the cosigner. That cosigner was me. She tried to call, number disconnected. Tried email, bounced back. Tried social media, nothing. I'd erased it all. Brenda started reaching out. My old co-workers, the guy from the hardware store. No one had seen me. One retired machinist I used to grab coffee with said, "Vern once joked he'd disappear if things ever got bad." Thought I was kidding. I wasn't. By the end of the 3rd week, her smug little Instagram video was gone. Her relationship status changed to "it's complicated." Comments shifted from supportive to uneasy. "Where is he? Everything okay? Do you need help?" She needed help. All right. But not the kind anyone could offer. Because I wasn't coming back. And every system she leaned on, every comfort she took for granted, was shutting down, one after another, like lights flicking off in an empty house. By week 5, Brenda dropped the act. She hired a private investigator, a retired cop named Detective Hollis Gruff. 53, built like a filing cabinet, with a permanent scowl carved into his face. He came to the house, sat at the kitchen table, and started asking the obvious questions. "When did you last see him? Did he take anything? Was there an argument? Brenda kept her tone careful. We had a birthday party. It was fine. He was fine. Then he just left. Hollis raised an eyebrow. Men don't just walk away, Mrs. Aldrich. There's always a reason. She stiffened. I didn't do anything wrong. He didn't argue, just jotted something in his notebook. Hollis began with the basics: Social Security, credit reports, DMV, cell phone data. Nothing. No passport scans, no rental cars, no plane tickets. My phone had pinged one last tower the night I left, then went silent. He didn't fly anywhere, Hollis said in week 2 of his investigation. Didn't rent a car, didn't use his cards. Either he's dead, or he planned this. Brenda's face drained of color. He's not dead. He's just being dramatic. Hollis leaned back. Ma'am, with all due respect, a man who disappears this clean isn't being dramatic. He's being strategic. That word hung in the air, strategic. Then Hollis found something. A buried detail in old shipping invoices. A bulk order of mailing supplies from 2 years earlier, billed to AP. Box 2 counties away. The name on the order, Aldrich Logistics Consulting. Brenda actually laughed when he told her. Vernon couldn't run a lemonade stand. Hollis didn't laugh. He ran something. Quietly. More digging uncovered an LLC registered 3 years ago in Montana, attached to a trust, with clauses transferring every estate power away from anything shared. He untied every knot, Hollis said. Over years. You wouldn't have noticed, he did it in pieces. Brenda stared at the papers spread across her kitchen table, bank statements, filings, registrations, all in Vernon's name, all dated long before he left. Why? She whispered. Hollis looked at her. You tell me. She didn't respond, but she knew. She thought about the jokes, the slideshow, her friends' comments about how he couldn't change a light bulb without help. All the ways she dismissed the small things he did because they weren't loud or flashy enough. Hollis shut his notebook. Mrs. Aldrich, your husband didn't leave on impulse. He'd been planning this for years. And from what I can tell, he made sure you kept everything you claimed you built on your own. He stood, but he also made sure you'd know just how much he was actually holding together. When Hollis left, Brenda sat alone at the table. The house felt bigger, emptier, colder. She opened her laptop and searched Aldrich Logistics Consulting. Nothing. No website, no reviews, no social media, nothing at all. It was as if Vernon had built a ghost company and then walked straight into it, leaving her behind with all the things she thought mattered. The house, the car, the business she'd claimed was hers. But sitting there alone, she finally realized none of it worked without him. The recycling plant sat on the edge of a forgotten town, gray walls, humming machinery, the thick smell of wet cardboard and hot metal. A perfect place to vanish. I started on the night shift. No questions asked if you worked for cash. The supervisor, a heavy-set man named Roy, handed me gloves and a punch card. Don't jam the conveyor with plastic bottles, he said. That's the only rule. I kept my head down, sorting trash from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m., slept in a rented room above a bait shop that reeked of fish and mildew. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. During the day, while everyone else slept or drank, I studied. Downloaded PDFs on supply chain management, watched logistics tutorials, read case studies about warehouse optimization. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was building something no one could ridicule or destroy, something stronger than humiliation disguised as love. The other workers nicknamed me College because I read during breaks instead of smoking. They laughed. I didn't care. Let them laugh. For months in, the plant's computer system crashed during a storm-induced outage. Everything went black. Inventory logs corrupted. Orders vanished. Management panicked. I walked into the supervisor's office. Roy, my supervisor, was staring at a dead screen, looking like a man watching his career slip away. I can fix it, I said. You, he asked. Yeah, me. He didn't have a better option, so he let me try. I spent 6 hours rewiring backup systems, reconstructing the database from fragments, coding workarounds on a laptop so old it still had a CD drive. By dawn, the system was running better than ever. Roy stared at the screen like I had performed a miracle. How did you know how to do that? I read. I found a way around it, I replied. Within a month, the regional manager arrived. He wanted to meet the person who saved the operation. I sat across from him in a windowless office. We could use someone like you full-time. Day shift, better pay. I shook my head. I work better at night. He frowned. Why? Because nobody asks questions at night. He didn't push. But a month later, he returned with a different offer. We need someone to audit our other facilities. Consultant work. Independent. Your hours. I leaned back. I need it in writing, through my company. He blinked. You have a company? I do now. I had registered Aldrich Logistics Consulting 2 weeks earlier. $85, an afternoon at the library. New name, new tax ID, a clean slate. By the end of my first year, I wasn't scrubbing conveyor belts anymore. I was sitting in borrowed offices, redesigning inventory systems across 3 states, earning in a month what used to take 6 months. No one knew who I had been. No slideshow, no jokes, no humiliation. They only knew results. And in business, that's all that matters. I hadn't spoken to my son Dale in 4 years. Not because of a fight, but because after my second marriage, he drifted, and Brenda made him feel like an outsider. I hadn't pushed back enough, a regret I carry. 3 months after I left, he found me. I was in a diner outside Pittsburgh, reviewing blueprints for a distribution center, when he slid into the booth across from me. Hey, Dad, he said. I put down my pen. How did you find me? I know the system, Dale said. You helped me set up an LLC when I started my business. I tracked your filings. Smart kid, always was. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, Mom told me you left. By mom, he meant his mother, my first wife. We divorced when he was 12, but remained civil. I did, I said. Good, he said. I was wondering when you'd finally walk away from that woman. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't like Brenda. Nobody did, Dad. Not really. You stayed because you thought it was the right thing. He wasn't wrong. Dale leaned forward. I saw the party. Bethany posted clips before Brenda made her take them down. I saw what she did to you. I clenched my jaw. I didn't want to talk about it. Dad? Dale said, firm, you don't owe her anything. You gave her 20 years. She gave you a punchline. I looked at him, really looked at him. My son, the one I should have fought harder to keep close. I'm sorry, I said, for letting her push you out. He shook his head. You didn't. I left because I couldn't watch what she was doing to you. But I should have spoken up, told you to leave years ago. We talked for 2 hours, his business, his life, his wife, and 2 kids I barely knew. He showed me pictures, invited me to visit, told me his door was always open. Before leaving, he put a hand on my shoulder. Whatever you're building now, Dad, I'm proud of you. And if you need help, call me. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Didn't trust my voice. After he left, I stared at my coffee. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I had my son back, and that was worth more than anything Brenda ever gave me. By year 3, things moved fast. Aldrich Logistics had clients in 7 states. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. More importantly, I was free. Then I got a call from an old colleague, Tim Osgood. We'd worked together before Brenda convinced me to quit for a less demanding job. Tim had risen to VP of operations at a mid-sized distribution company. Vern, he said, I need someone to unfry our entire supply chain. Heard you were the guy? Where did you hear that? Gerald at Penroke Industries. Said you turned his operation around in 18 months. It's true. Good. I'm offering a 6-month contract. Full audit, total redesign if needed. Name your price. I named it. He didn't flinch. What Tim didn't tell me, his company had recently acquired a smaller firm that Brenda's real estate office had connections with. Small world, smaller still. I flew to Cleveland on a Tuesday, rented a car, checked into a hotel under my business name. First day, I walked into the conference room and started outlining problems I had already identified from their data. Inventory mismanagement, shipping delays, vendor contracts untouched for 5 years. I had solutions for all of it. Executives listened, took notes, asked questions. For the first time, people weren't just hearing me. They respected me. After the meeting, a junior analyst named Monica approached. Mr. Aldrich, I've been trying to raise these issues for 2 years. Nobody listened until you spoke. And then you did the hard work. I replied, I just knew how to sell it. She smiled. Still, thank you. Over the next 3 months, I completely overhauled their logistics network, cutting costs by 30%, slashing shipping times in half. The board was ecstatic. One day, Tim pulled me aside. Vern, I don't know where you've been hiding, but you're wasted as a consultant. Come work for us full-time. I shook my head. I prefer independence. Fair enough. But when you're ready for something bigger, call me. What I didn't know was that someone was already watching, a young journalist, maybe 30, named Ryan Fletcher. He was working on a story about under-the-radar business successes, people who built empires without press releases or social media, just results. He reached out to my business email. Mr. Aldrich, I'd like to interview you for a feature. Won't take long. I almost declined, but something made me agree. We met at a quiet restaurant. He asked about my background, my company, my philosophy. I kept it simple. I don't believe in noise. I believe in solving problems. That's it. He scribbled notes. And before this, what were you doing? I paused, learning to show restraint. 2 months later, the article appeared. Not front-page news, just a feature in a regional business magazine. With my photo, professional headshot, suit and tie, steady gaze, clean background. The headline read, Vernon Aldrich, the strategist who works in silence. I didn't think much of it, just another piece of press. But in a world connected by screens, nothing stays hidden for long. Brenda was at the dentist, routine cleaning, the third reschedule this year. The receptionist finally guilted her into showing up. The waiting room was cold, vinyl chairs, outdated magazines stacked on a scratched coffee table. She picked up one absent-mindedly. A business publication. Then she stopped. The photo hit her. Full page. A man in a dark suit, arms crossed, staring straight at the camera. Professional lighting, confident expression. It was me. Her hand shook. The magazine slipped to the floor with a thud. Another patient glanced over. Brenda forced a smile, picked it up, flipped back. The headline, Vernon Aldrich, the strategist who works in silence. She read the first paragraph, then the second, then the full article. Her breath grew shorter. It described a man who had emerged 3 years ago, transforming failing logistics operations into profitable machines, quietly, without social media, without applause, just results. Executives were quoted. When Vernon speaks, you listen. Brenda stared at my face. Older, yes, but sharper, colder, something hardened inside me like steel. Her hand trembled as she turned the page. Another photo. Me at the head of a conference table, pointing at a chart while executives leaned in, listening. She remembered those same charts spread across our living room table, her rolling her eyes, saying, Can you move your little project? My book club visits, my retreat to the garage or basement. She never had to see me working. The receptionist called her name. Brenda didn't move, just kept staring at the page. At the bottom of the article, a quote attributed to me. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to outlast the noise. She read it 3 times. Each time felt like a blade sliding between her ribs. She stood abruptly, told the receptionist she needed to reschedule, walked to her car, and sat gripping the magazine so tightly the pages crumpled. She opened her phone, searched my name, found the article online, read it again, then looked up Aldrich Logistics Consulting. One result, a barebones website. No photos, no contact form, only a single line. Private consulting referral only. She tried calling the number listed. Rang twice, then a generic voicemail. You've reached Aldrich Logistics. Leave a message. She hung up, tried again. Same result. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept returning to the photo. My face, the way I stared into the camera, like I was looking through it, through her. And for the first time since I left, she understood. I hadn't vanished because I was broken. I vanished because I was done. Done being her punchline. Done being invisible. I walked away and built something she could never touch, mock, or diminish. Now, seeing my face in that magazine, she realized the truth. I had never needed her. I had only let her believe I did. Brenda arrived at my office 3 days after discovering the article. I had known she would come eventually. Detective Hollis had warned me months earlier that she was asking questions, searching for me. My receptionist buzzed. Mr. Aldrich, a woman is here. Says she's your wife. No appointment. I leaned back. Tell her I'm in a meeting. 5 minutes later, Brenda bypassed security and stormed into my office anyway. Some things never change. She stood in the doorway, breathing hard, eyes red. Older, tired. The confidence she once wore like armor was gone. Vernon, she said, voice shaking. I didn't stand, didn't smile, just looked at her as a stranger intruding on my afternoon. You need an appointment? I replied. An appointment? She raised her voice. I'm your wife. You are my husband. I corrected her. Past tense. Divorce papers filed 18 months ago. Signed. She stepped closer without contacting me directly. Why didn't you tell me about all this? Gesturing around my office, sleek furniture, client logos, city skyline. Tell you what? I asked. That you were building this. That you were someone. I stood, looked her in the eye. I was always someone, Brenda. You just needed me to be no one so you could feel important. Her face crumpled. That's not fair. Fair. You humiliated me in front of 20 people, made a slideshow of my failures, laughed when they laughed, and then posted jokes online. I didn't think you'd ever leave, she whispered. I know that was the problem, I said. I see it now. Can we talk? We are talking, I replied. Really talk. About us, about fixing this. I shook my head. There's no us, Brenda. There hasn't been for years. You just didn't notice because I stopped fighting back. Her voice hardened. You just throw away 20 years. I didn't throw them away. You did, one joke at a time. Security appeared at the door. 2 men in dark suits. I had called them the moment she walked in. Mrs. Aldrich is leaving, I said. She looked at them, then back at me. You're really going to throw me out? Yes. She laughed bitterly. You've changed. No, I replied. I just stopped pretending to be smaller than I am so you could feel bigger. They escorted her out. She didn't resist. Shoulders slumped. All fire gone. After she left, I sat by the window. I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel vindicated. Just tired. My phone buzzed, a text from Dale, my son. Heard Brenda showed up. You okay? I typed back. I'm fine. Dinner this weekend? Absolutely. 4 months later, Detective Hollis called. Mr. Aldrich, just updating you. Mrs. Aldrich is officially closing the case. No missing person, no foul play. Just a man who left legally. Good, I replied. For what it's worth, Hollis said, I've seen many disappearances. Most are men running from something. You weren't running. You were walking toward something better. I appreciated that. The business kept growing. By year 5, I had 15 employees and clients nationwide. Moved into a larger office. Hired Dale as a consultant. Working together healed old wounds. One afternoon, my stepdaughter Bethany reached out, not through Brenda, but via email. Vernon, I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm sorry. I watched that video from the party, ashamed of myself. I'm pregnant. The father left. Mom won't help. I don't know who else to ask. I stared at the email, then called her. She answered immediately. Vernon, it's me, I said. She cried, apologized over and over. I told her, I'll help you. Not because I owe you, but because that's who I choose to be. Over 6 months, I covered her medical bills, set up a trust for the baby, ensured she had everything needed without Brenda's knowledge. When the baby was born, she named him Dale, after my son. She sent me a picture. I placed it on my desk next to my grandkid's photo. Brenda? I heard through acquaintances she lost her house. Her business failed, moved into a small apartment, worked part-time, stayed off social media. I didn't celebrate her downfall, just felt indifference. Choices made. Consequences lived. 10 months later, I was invited to speak at the National Logistics Conference. 500 people attended. Walking on stage, I realized I wasn't that man anymore. The one who stood silent while mocked, who shrank to fit someone else's story. I was Vernon Aldrich, strategist, consultant, father, grandfather, and no one would ever make me feel small again. I began my speech as I began this journey. My name is Vernon Aldrich. 5 years ago, I walked away from invisibility. Today, I stand before you because I refuse to be small. The room went silent. Then applause. Then standing ovation. Not for dramatic revenge, but because everyone understood what it felt like to be underestimated and what it took to prove them wrong. Afterward, a young man approached. Mid-20s, nervous. Mr. Aldrich, my wife doesn't respect me. She tears me down. I don't know what to do. I looked at him, saw myself 5 years ago. You know what to do, I said. You're just afraid. He nodded, walked away. I hoped he'd find courage. I never saw Brenda again. Never looked back. Never wondered what if. The best revenge isn't cruelty. It's peace. And I finally had mine.